Alright, so I have an anatomy exam today on the urinary system in about a few more hours, and I just wanted to go through what I'm going to be using to study for that with you guys. So I got a bit of a study guide right here. I made a bit of a board right here to put in my thoughts that I'm a bit confused about. See, as you can see, what I've already put on was filtration pressure, stimulating JG cells to produce renin and erythropoietin. So there's low pressure, if there's low pressure, there's going to be more, the JG cells are going to sense that and secrete erythropoietin and renin to produce even more responses. And this is also sympathetic activation. Okay, so I'm also going to be going through some of the notes once again in my notebook. I'm going to be going through them a bit fast because I don't got much time right now. So I'm going to be going through first, starting with the study guide. And what I'm going to do is, if I don't understand a very important topic, I'm going to write it down here. So hopefully understand it before the exam. Okay, so Chapter 26. Some of the functions of the urinary system is to regulate blood volume and pressure, adjusting the volume of water lost in urine, because whatever follows, because wherever the solutes go, water follows. Releasing renin, so renin constricts blood vessels, and when blood vessels are constricted, increases blood pressure. Okay, that's an important thing. I didn't really know that. Release erythropoietin, which produces red blood cells. That also increases blood pressure. Increasing blood pressure. So renin is increasing blood pressure by constricting blood vessels, and erythropoietin increases blood pressure by producing red blood cells. Regulating blood content. So sodium, potassium, calcium, and chlorine. Chlorine is used to synthesize also calcitriol. Regulating pH. Controls loss of hydrogen and bicarbonate ions. Conserve nutrients when eliminating nitrogenous wastes. So going from amino group NH2, when an amino group, say you eat food, there's some nitrogen in that food and combines with hydrogen forms amino groups, and if that amino group combines with another hydrogen, you get something toxic in your body called ammonia. And ammonia combines with carbon dioxide at the liver to produce, two ammonias combined with carbon dioxide at the liver, excuse me, combined with carbon dioxide at the liver to produce urea. And urea combines with water. Uric acid forms with high nitrogen food intake. So if you're constantly eating a lot of foods with high nitrogen, then you're going to get a lot of uric acid. Yeah, my glasses are falling off. So when urea and water combine, that's actually a good thing because that's completely harmless, that combination. Also, if you get a lot of uric acid forming with too much food intake, you get what's called gout, or gout uric acid, which affects your joints and gives you arthritis. Assist the liver in detoxifying, actually these are all kidney functions. So regulating blood volume and pressure using renin and erythropoietin, regulating blood pH, regulating blood concentration of solutes and ions, and conserving nutrients when eliminating non-nitrogenous waste. All these are kidney functions. The fifth function is to assist the liver in detoxifying poisons and deaminating amino acids during starvation. Yeah, you don't want too much poison, so the kidney helps out with that by excreting it through the poisons through urine. Okay, some of the anatomy. So the kidneys remove waste from the body, produce urine, water, ions, small soluble molecules that are all in a retroperitoneal position. The adrenal gland is above the fibrous capsule, collagen fibers, perinephric fat, adipose tissue, renal fascia, dense fiber layer, nephrons, renal cortex, renal period. So this is the movement through the kidney. So we start the nephrons, the microscopic things. The nephrons at the renal cortex, and then onto the kidney lobe, which consists of the renal pyramid of the medulla, the renal papilla, then renal medulla, then to the renal papilla of the pyramid, or the bottom part. Then the papilla is more of the excretion part of the urine. And then onto the minor calyx, and then onto the major calyx, then onto the renal pelvis, then to the ureters, and to the urinary bladder, and then out through the urethra. Okay, so going through the MA head cortex, the medulla, renal pyramid of the medulla, and then to the renal papilla, then to the minor calyx, then to the major calyx, then to the renal pelvis, then to the ureters, then to the urinary bladder, then to the urethra. Okay, then we get the renal artery. The renal artery leads into the kidney, goes into the efferent arteriole, then to the glomerulus, then to the efferent arterioles, then to the peritubular capillaries, then to venules. Ureters are tubes that prevent backflow of urine when bladder contracts. It has an inner mucosa of transitional epithelium or lamina propria. Here it is. It has a muscular layer, longitudinal / circular muscles, outer circulatory layer, continuous with fibrous capsule, peritoneum, urinary bladder, muscular organ for urine storage, and has rugae. Okay, so the two different types of nephron are the cortical nephron and juxtamedullary nephron. The cortical nephron is at the superficial cortex of the kidney. It's a short nephron loop. Has peritubular capillaries that get blood delivery and have the most reabsorption / secretion for humans, because we're able to store water better than animals. So most of our reabsorption and secretion happens at the cortical nephron. Juxtamedullary nephron is a long nephron into the medulla. Its peritubular capillaries connected to a vasorecta, which enable the kidneys to produce concentrated urine. Internal urethral sphincter, so smooth muscles, involuntary control, parasympathetic fibers here. Mucosa, submucosa, these are the layers of the kidney, of some of the urethra. Mucosa, submucosa, submuscularis, inner and outer, longitudinal and circular between. The detrusor muscle for contraction and expelling urine, the urethra for passing urine to the exterior. The urethra also has a transitional epithelium, stratified columnar, stratified squamous. External urethral sphincter, voluntary control, skeletal muscle. External urethral sphincter for voluntary control, skeletal muscle, permits urination / micturition. Okay, histology and physiology of the nephron. Glomerular filtration at the glomerulus. At the glomerulus, there's some filtration histology, so the lumen of It has fenestrated endothelium capillaries with pores for filtration. It has a dense layer of capillaries. It has podocytes with pedicels or feet. Filtration slits between adjacent pedicels. Only a few plasma proteins can get through, such as albumins. So the filtration slits at the podocytes and pedicels, those are filtration slits, and they're mainly used to prevent some proteins from entering. Between adjacent capillaries, there's mesangial cells. Mesangial cells control capillary diameter and capillary blood flow rate. Okay, filtration physiology. So substances filtered out of the blood, such as metabolic waste, excess ions, filtration physiology. So substances filtered out of the blood, such as metabolic waste, excess ions, glucose, free fatty acids, amino acids, vitamins, and other solutes. Wow. Filtration physiology. Substances filtered out of the blood, such as metabolic waste, excess ions, glucose, waste, extra ions, glucose, free fatty acids, amino acids, vitamins, and other solutes. Blood pressure forces water and solutes from the glomerular capillaries. So having regulating blood pressure is very important because you're moving water and solutes, keeping it moving through that urinary kidney system process. Free fatty acids, amino acids, vitamins, and others. Glomerular filtration rate, GFR. Okay, now I'm going to be going into the acronyms. So that's good. This is gonna be a bit intense. So be ready. Glomerular filtration rate, GFR. So in this process of GFR, we have hydrostatic pressure, fluid pressure. Net hydrostatic pressure is equal to glomerular hydrostatic pressure minus colloid hydrostatic pressure. So hydrostatic pressure in the glomerulus is abbreviated GHP. The solutes in the kidney are abbreviated CSHP for colloid hydrostatic pressure. So 35 millimeters of mercury. So if you subtract the GHP and the CSHP, you get the NHP, then the hydrostatic pressure, the total amount of hydrostatic pressure, which is usually about 35 millimeters of mercury. Glomerular hydrostatic pressure pushes water and solutes out of the bloodstream. Glomerular hydrostatic pressure pushes water and solutes out of the bloodstream. And it's usually about 50 millimeters of mercury. So CSHP stands for capsular hydrostatic pressure, actually. I mixed it up. I said colloid. So capsular hydrostatic pressure. NHP is equal to glomerular hydrostatic pressure minus capsular hydrostatic pressure. Glomerular hydrostatic pressure is pushing water and solutes out of the bloodstream. CSHP is pulling water and solutes into the bloodstream. So GHP is more of a secretion into the kidney tubules and the filtrate, and CSHP, capsular hydrostatic pressure, is more of a push out of the tubules and into the bloodstream. Pulling. So that's about 50 mils of mercury. So CSHP isn't as strong as GHP in terms of pressure strength, which means there's more water and solids being pushed into the tubules. The thing I was talking about before, blood colloid osmotic pressure draws water out of the filtrate. Draws water out of the filtrate. So going out back into the blood. Osmotic pressure from suspended proteins, it's about 25 millimeters of mercury. Oh yeah, I got a timer going on, guys, so just to keep myself on track because my exam's in a couple minutes, so hope it's not too distracting. Maybe I'll end that. There we go. Blood colloid osmotic pressure draws water out of filtrate. Osmotic pressure from suspended proteins. The strength of this is about 25 millimeters of mercury. So some of the things the body creates are urea from amino acid breakdowns, such as when that process of an amino group combining with carbon dioxide to form amino group combining with an amino group combining with hydrogen to form ammonia, and ammonia is very toxic, and then that combines with carbon dioxide to form urea. So it has to be two though, two ammonias combined with carbon dioxide, the liver, to form urea, and that combines with water to become harmless, and can be also easily excreted from urine. So the body creates urea from amino acid breakdown. The body creates urea from amino acid breakdown. Creatinine muscle is used for muscle contraction. Product breakdown. Uric acid is for recycling nitrogenous bases from RNA. Nitrogen doing its thing. So uric acid can also cause gout, as we said before. It looks like it comes from RNA. So net filtration pressure, originally we talked about the hydrostatic pressure, GHP minus capsular hydrostatic pressure. Now we're talking about net filtration pressure, which is NFP is equal to NHP minus net hydrostatic pressure minus BCOP, blood colloid osmotic pressure. Net filtration pressure is the average pressure forcing water and dissolved materials out of the glomerular capillaries and into capsular spaces. Glomerular filtration rate is equal to about 125 milliliters per minute. Measures GFR, creatine clearance test, amount of creatine exercised in urine, excreted in urine, over the amount of creatine. But we never talked about that in class. Autoregulation of the glomerular filtration rate, blood pressure, systemic, and glomerular filtration rate are directly related. When systemic blood pressure increases, the afferent arterial walls stretches. The afferent arterial wall stretches. So that's an important pattern to know. Increasing blood pressure. Afferent arterial wall stretches, smooth muscle contracts, diameter of afferent arterioles decreases, so there's a constricts efferent arterioles and dilates efferent arterioles. At the tubules, proximal and distal, there's some reabsorption histology going on here. So start with the proximal convoluted tubule. The proximal convoluted tubule has simple cuboidal microvilli, lumen cuboidal cells, tubule wall, extracellular fluid. The tubular wall has extracellular fluid and capillaries. Distal convoluted tubule is simple cuboidal also. It has little to no microvilli though. Towards the lumen, it has an internal wall called the macula densa, and macula densa is used to sense the amount of sodium entering the tubules. Yep. Okay, so substances reabsorbed into the blood are at the proximal convoluted tubule, we have ions, organic molecules, vitamins, water, and it's so that's reabsorbed back into the blood, being pulled out and back into the blood from the PCT, proximal convoluted tubule. These ions, organic molecules, vitamins, and water secrete drugs, toxins, acids, and excess phosphate and hydrogen ions at the PCT. So these things are being pushed. Drugs, toxins, acids, excess phosphate, and hydrogen. Those are being pushed into the tubules. The distal convoluted tubule is responsible for secretion or pulling out of ions, acids, drugs, toxins in tubules. Or pulling. Distal convoluted tubule is responsible for pulling. Okay, I need to straighten this out. So secretion is going into the tubules, push. Reabsorption is a pull out of the tubules and into the blood. Okay, glad we straightened that out. So distal convoluted tubule is for secretion or pushing of ions, acids, drugs, and toxins into the tubules, and reabsorbing some or pushing out some water, sodium, and calcium ions into the blood. The macula densa and JG juxtaglomerular cells, JG cells have unusual smooth muscle, but the macula densa and JG cells make up the juxtaglomerular complex. So macula densa senses sodium levels, JG cells sense blood pressure. As we said before, and it's on the whiteboard, so JG cells sense low blood pressure, and if they sense that, they stimulate the release of renin and erythropoietin to increase blood pressure. So that process of having a macula densa for sodium levels and JG cells for blood pressure, those make up the juxtaglomerular complex. Okay, reabsorption physiology. So the proximal convoluted tubule is a carrier-mediated transport. So it has protein channels facilitated diffusion, glucose and amino acids. So there's sodium-potassium exchange pumps and sodium leak pumps. Co-transport of glucose and ions, counter-transport or secretion of hydrogen to in opposite directions. Diffusion of solutes, osmosis, water, ions being moved, hydrogen, sodium, bicarbonate, and potassium. The distal convoluted tubule has co-transport, counter-transport with potassium, aldosterone regulated. Aldosterone is used for, that's something I need to know. Aldosterone is used for that's a weak point. So I usually write down my weaknesses on this whiteboard areas that I'm a bit confused on or can't really remember what things do. So the distal convoluted tubule is responsible for co-transport, counter-transport, aldosterone regulated, and sodium carrier mediated transport, parathyroid hormone / calcitriol osmosis, so ADH regulated, carrier mediated transport with drugs, toxins, creatine, and calcium. At the nephron loop or loop of Henle, there's some histology going on here. So we have a descending limb. So unlike our cuboidal, our PCT and DCT, which are cuboidal, at our nephron loop, we have we have a descending limb and an ascending limb, and these are both squamous. Squamous, thin, low cuboidal, thick. Squamous, thin, low cuboidal, thick. So there's substances entering / leaving the descending and ascending loops. The descending is impermeable to solutes and permeable to water. So the descending loop is impermeable. So here's the loop of Henle. It usually goes into like this loop thing. It looks like kind of like this. So there's a descending loop and an ascending loop. A descending loop, so we get a PCT leading into the descending. The descending loop is squamous, or they're both squamous. The descending loop is impermeable to solutes. So solutes such as sodium, chloride, these things don't leave. It's only permeable to water, so water is able to exit and enter the bloodstream or the ECF from there, leaving water via osmosis and water reabsorption. So osmosis happens, water reabsorption, water is being pushed out. Okay, the ascending is impermeable to water. Only active solutes are being transported. Some of the ones leaving are sodium, chloride, so like salts, via sodium, potassium, and chloride transporters, or active transport. So physiology and concentrating fluids, countercurrent multiplication, and positive feedback. So there's a positive feedback loop going on here, so things are being removed. Potassium and 2 chloride ions co-transport across thick ascending limb. Potassium and sodium exchange via sodium-potassium exchange pump. Potassium and sodium are exchanged via the sodium and potassium exchange pump. Okay. So the net result is we're left with 1 sodium and 2 chloride ions into the paratubular fluid. We also get variable reabsorption and secretion. At the DCT, there's reabsorption that happens. So sodium ions hormone, the hormone aldosterone. There we go. There's our aldosterone. Aldosterone controls sodium channels and ion pumps. May reduce sodium. Controls sodium channels and ion pumps. Okay, aldosterone, sodium. So at the DCT, sodium is regulated by the hormone aldosterone, and it controls sodium channels and ion pumps. It's at the DCT for aldosterone. May reduce sodium lost in urine. Potassium, so it's mainly used for reabsorption, really. Reabsorption of sodium. Okay. Potassium, aldosterone may increase potassium lost in urine. Having hypokalemia or low potassium, ANP and BMP inhibits aldosterone. So if there's too much potassium loss, ANP and BMP will inhibit that. So another function of aldosterone is increasing potassium lost in urine. and it's inhibited by ANP and BNP. Okay, continuing on. Calcium, so we have a parathyroid hormone and calcitriol. And we have H2O that has aquaporins. H2O is regulated by aquaporins. So that's part of the reabsorption process. I need to write this down because I don't really know what parathyroid hormone and calcitriol are, but they're important for the reabsorption of calcium. I don't really know what aquaporins is, but it's used for reabsorption of H2O. Secretion, so we have, for potassium, we have sodium-potassium pumps. Potassium, so this is all going back into the tubules now for secretion. So I'm going to write that here in case I forget. The rule is reabsorption is kidney to blood. Secretion is blood to kidney. And by kidney, I mean the tubules of the kidney. Hydrogen from carbonic acid and sodium goes to sodium link channels, link countertransport bicarbonate ions into the bloodstream. Bicarbonate ions into the bloodstream prevent changes in plasma pH. So when bicarbonate ions enter the blood pH is affected. So bicarbonate ions would increase the pH of blood and acidifies the tubular fluid. Why? The tubular fluid is acidified because bicarbonate left, which means there's a higher hydrogen ion concentration. And it looks like the bicarbonate ions come from carbonic acid. I have a drawing of this on my thing. Of this formula. Okay. So in blood, I just remembered the process. I hung it up on top of my bed right there. That's the process. So in blood, we get water and carbon dioxide that combine to form carbonic acid. That's why it says here hydrogen ions come from carbonic acid, and that's the acidifying part of the story. So once carbonic acid is formed, carbonic acid later becomes hydrogen and bicarbonate ions. Hydrogen and bicarbonate ions increase acidity or make things more basic. Bicarbonate ions. So bicarbonate ions increase pH of the blood, acidifying the tubular fluid and speeds up with pH of the blood. It speeds up with pH of blood decreasing. So the blood gets more blood gets more acidic, more bicarbonate ions are reabsorbed into the bloodstream. Hydrogen ion removal and bicarbonate ions production controls blood pH. Aldosterone increases, more aldosterone processes, increases H plus secretion. So making the tubular fluid more acidic. Okay, I gotta put a note here on the hydrogen and HCO3 minus story. So I gotta write down the formula. H2O plus CO2 forms carbonic acid, H2CO3 carbonic acid, which later forms H plus and bicarbonate. That's right? Let me see. Yes. So carbonic acid is part of the acidifying part of the story in blood. Hydrogen ions from secretion of hydrogen ions from carbonic acid. Okay. You need to move on. I'm running out of time. Hydrogen ion removal bicarbonate production controls blood pH. Aldosterone increases hydrogen secretion and increases sodium reabsorption. Yep, that's right. I already put that down there. Aldosterone, you do so much things. So now the question is, what stimulates aldosterone? Ooh. Tubular deamination generates bicarbonate ions for buffering capacity for plasma. Ammonium leaves, bicarbonate enters the bloodstream. When ammonium leaves, bicarbonate enters the bloodstream. At the collecting ducts, some histology, sodium, aldosterone control sodium pumps. So it's at the DCT and the collecting ducts. At collecting ducts, there's sodium, aldosterone that controls sodium pumps. H2O, ADH controls water permeability. Another important thing I want to talk about in school, don't let the things that happen to you at school affect your study habits, because right now I was actually struggling with trying to study and focus and even manage my time because I'm thinking about school, relationships, and all that. Don't let that control you. You have to be able to know when it's time to study and when it's time to focus on things that are important and not on things that don't push you further in life. Studying is just a life lesson, whether it be for myself or for anyone who can take away from this. Prioritize your studies. It might cause you to lose some friends, but in the long run, the people that are supposed to be there will stay. I just want to put that out there. Okay, back into the histology of the collecting duct. So H2O, ADH is controlling water permeability. So that's another thing I didn't really understand. ADH, anti-diuretic hormone. Like what is that? What does that do? So it controls H2O permeability. So I guess the ability of water to leave the kidney tubules. Reabsorption of sodium bicarbonate exchange for chloride ions, and urea diffuse out of tubular fluid and into peritubular fluid. It's talking about. Oh, okay. So at the collecting duct we have reabsorption or pushing out of sodium bicarbonate in exchange for chloride ions, and urea diffuses out of the tubular fluid and into the peritubular fluid. So I guess urea is also being exchanged at the collecting duct also. Okay. And we also get some secretion here of, so some things actually entering into the tubules here. Entering the kidney tubules now. So we get some, we got some hydrogen ions that lower blood pH. We have some bicarbonate ions which increase blood pH. And we have some potassium countertransport with sodium ions. Regulation of kidney function. So we have a neuroautonomic response. There's a chicken crawling outside. Focus. So I've been examined about an hour now. Regulation of kidney function. So we have a neuroautonomic response, lowering blood pressure. So sympathetic postganglionic fibers cause vasoconstriction of afferent arterioles and the dilation of the efferent, of course, decreasing GFR, slowing the production of the filtrate. Okay, so a bit more on the sympathetic response. I didn't really know much about the sympathetic response, so this is some good information for me. Sympathetic response. So during the sympathetic response, we get the vasoconstrictions of afferent arterioles, and we also get the decreased GFR, decreased glomerular filtration rate, slowing filtrate production. Slowing filtrate production. Or some of the reasons for sympathetic response, some stimulations that can trigger sympathetic response include warm weather, strenuous exercise, increasing blood pressure. Okay. Hormonal response, stimulating conditions and final effects. So renin-angiotensin is an enzyme renin activates, and we said before, renin is released when there's low blood pressure. When there's low blood pressure, JG cells will release renin and erythropoietin. So renin-angiotensin plays a role in that low blood pressure being sensed by JG cells in the JG complex with the macula densa there too. Renin-angiotensin. So enzyme renin activates and the inactive angiotensinogen. Angiotensinogen is secreted by the liver. Renin is secreted by JG cells. So once renin and angiotensin are combined and it activates angiotensinogen, angiotensinogen becomes angiotensin. Oh, excuse me. Where was I? Kidney's response to juxtaglomerular complex, as before, macula densa is sodium sensitive. The macula densa put that down. JG complex. So JG complex has the JG cells and macula densa. Macula densa is sodium sensitive. So if there's low sodium in the DCT, there's low blood pressure. JG cells secrete renin. Maintaining arterial constriction, vasoconstriction, sympathetic, tells hypothalamus you're thirsty. And I need another whiteboard for this. Okay. So renin, angiotensin. Okay, I'm gonna put some small things for this. Renin-angiotensin is stimulated by low blood pressure, activates JG cells for renin, and turns angiotensinogen, which is from the liver, into angiotensin. Maintains arterial constriction. Okay, I'm running out of time. Vasoconstriction sympathetic tells hypothalamus you're thirsty. That's an important thing. Thirsty. Hypothalamus. What's another thing? Okay. Aldosterone lowers blood pressure. Put that down. Aldosterone effect is, during low blood pressure, adrenal gland is stimulated by stretch receptors of capillaries for aldosterone release. So there's an aldosterone release going on here. Sensed by stretch receptors at the adrenal gland. Secreted in response to high potassium and low sodium in the blood. Activation of renin-angiotensin aldosterone system. Okay, I'm getting control. As I said before, focus on your studies. Don't let these school things, these small things drift you away. Like right now, it's even being captured. People can spend or waste time on thoughts that don't really matter. That's why I'm getting distracted a bit. Okay, let's focus. Increasing sodium reabsorption. So don't get caught up in any of that drama in school. Don't do that. Focus on what your goals are. Aldosterone increases sodium reabsorption. Yeah, I put that. Increases sodium reabsorption from DCT and collecting duct. Sodium concentration in the blood increases osmosis into the blood. Increase osmosis into blood. And if there's more sodium in the blood, then there's gonna be increased blood pressure and increased blood volume. So we're getting blood back to normal with the aldosterone because more sodium is being reabsorbed back into the blood. Affects DCT and convoluted tubules. So ADH affects the DCT and convoluted and collecting duct. Okay, so ADH stands for antidiuretic hormone. Originally, I just put controls water permeability. So it's created by the hypothalamus, secreted by posterior pituitary glands from osmoreceptors, stimulation of the hypothalamus, aquaporins of baroreceptors, pressure receptors, the aquaporins close to retain water in the capillaries. So osmoreceptor stimulation of hypothalamus. Aquaporins closed to retain water. Closed to retain water in capillaries. So if water is retained, increases blood pressure, of course. So ADH has a role with aquaporins close, increasing blood pressure. Because if aquaporins close, more water retention. It doesn't make you pee, makes you retain water in the kidneys, concentrates urine. Concentrates urine, stimulates hypothalamic thirst center. AMP, natriuretic peptide, BMP, brain natriuretic peptide, stimulated by high blood pressure and high blood volume, released by cardiac muscle cells by responding to abnormal stretching of heart walls. Reduce the thirst, block release of aldosterone / antidiuretic hormone, ADH. So less thirst, less aldosterone and ADH release. Decrease blood pressure and blood volume. So recap. So aldosterone is used for controlling sodium levels, increasing sodium levels, increasing control sodium channels, increase hydrogen ion secretion, reabsorption of sodium back into the blood. And if there's more sodium in the blood, then there's going to be more water being reabsorbed into the blood for higher blood pressure. ADH is for closing aquaporins, controlling water permeability. More water means higher blood pressure in terms of ADH. And then the hypothalamus, aldosterone receptors in the hypothalamus are stimulated for secretion of ADH. So AMP and BMP reduce thirst, block release of aldosterone / ADH, decreasing blood pressure and blood volume. Erythropoietin is secreted by the kidneys, it sends to the bone marrow for formation of red blood cells. So that's for low blood pressure or low oxygen. No, erythropoietin is for low oxygen levels. Okay. Staying by low oxygen levels in the blood increases blood viscosity slightly. Calcitriol, okay. That was when we talked about calcitriol with the parathyroid hormone before. Calcitriol is secreted by the kidney and sent to the intestines. Secretion stimulated by thyroid / parathyroid glands. So they're responsible for reabsorption of calcium. So it looks like parathyroid hormone may be causing calcitriol secretion too. Since calcium levels in the bloodstream release the parathyroid hormone. So parathyroid hormone is released. The parathyroid hormone stimulates kidneys to produce calcitriol. Okay, so parathyroid hormone causes the release of calcitriol because calcium levels were sensed already in the intestines or in the bloodstream by the thyroid / parathyroid glands. So parathyroid hormone stimulates the kidneys to produce calcitriol, pulls calcium out of the digestive tract for bone formation. So parathyroid hormone stimulates kidneys to produce calcitriol. Calcitriol pulls calcium out of the digestive tract for bone formation and conserves calcium in the blood. Parathyroid hormone stimulates kidneys to produce calcitriol, pulls calcium. Digestive tract for bone formation considers calcium in the blood. Chapter 27, acid, base, and fluid volume regulation. Oh, the next chapter, eh? General body fluid formation. Increasing calcium, potassium levels can result in heart attacks. So extracellular fluid is made up of interstitial fluid, plasma, and other body fluids. Oh. I don't got much time until my exam now. Intracellular fluid consists of the cytosol. So everything that's not in the cell is extracellular fluid. Females have less water than males, adipose tissue, less water than skeletal muscle. You must have a balance in fluid, electrolytes, and acid base. Yeah, don't get some drama like happened yesterday is still stuck in my head. Yeah, guys, don't get involved in school drama. I mean, yesterday was Valentine's Day, so don't get involved in that type of stuff, because, bro, it's gonna affect your studies. I really was able to study last night. Couldn't. I just got focus right now. Study. Okay, let's go. So, you must have a balance in fluid, electrolytes, and acid base. Some common solutes selectively permeable across the membrane. So extracellular fluid include sodium, chloride, and bicarbonate ions. So that's all moving around in the ECF. ICF has potassium, magnesium, and phosphoric acid also. Homeostatic mechanisms respond to changes in the ECF, not the ICF. Four hormones regulating water balance / blood pressure: renin, angiotensin, aldosterone. ADH, and AMP and BMP. Blood pH regulation is controlled via the urinary / respiratory mechanisms. pH remains normal between 7.35 to 7.45. If you have pH lower than 7.35, you have acidosis. If you have pH higher than 7.45, you have alkalosis. Acids affecting pH balance, so fixed. If you have fixed acid, it remains in the body fluids until excreted by the kidneys. Drama. This drama in my head. Yeah, don't deal with drama when studying for an anatomy exam. It's gonna give you anxiety. Bruh. It was only Valentine's Day yesterday, and all of this is affecting my study habits. Don't get distracted or involved in school drama, guys. Seriously, it's not gonna help you. So some acids affecting pH balance. So fixed acids remain in body fluids until excreted by the kidneys. Organic acids, participants / byproducts of cellular metabolism. Volatile acids leave the body / enter the atmosphere at the lungs. Bicarbonate, carbon dioxide increasing. Hydrogen and bicarbonate ions are released. pH is decreased. Carbon dioxide is inversely related to pH. Okay. Oh, this is important. This is the respiratory part of the story. So the fixed acids remain in body fluids excreted by the kidneys. Organic acids are participants / byproducts of cellular metabolism. Volatile acids leave the body / enter the atmosphere at the lungs as bicarbonate ions. Carbon dioxide increasing. Hydrogen and bicarbonate is released. pH decreases. Carbon dioxide inversely related to pH. There has to be a balance between the gain and loss of hydrogen ions. So kidneys secrete hydrogen ions into the urine. The lungs eliminate hydrogen ions by forming water and carbon dioxide. From hydrogen and bicarbonate ions. Lungs eliminate hydrogen by forming water and carbon dioxide. That forms carbonic acid, and that forms bicarbonate and hydrogen. From hydrogen and bicarbonate. Okay, buffer systems. Buffer systems consist of weak acids donating hydrogen and weak bases that absorb hydrogen. Buffer systems, there's a phosphate buffer system. Buffers the pH of ICF. For phosphoric acid. Stabilizes the pH of the urine. We have a protein buffer system that depends on the amino acids so they respond to the pH changes. We have a hemoglobin buffer system. Red blood cell affects the ECF pH, absorbs carbon dioxide, converts to carbonic acid. So red blood cells absorb carbon dioxide, converting that to carbonic acid. Hemoglobin buffer system of hydrogens keep blood from acidifying, holding back the hydrogen ions. Carbonic acid bicarbonate buffer system. Volatile acids, CO2 plus H2O forms carbonic acid forming hydrogen and bicarbonate. Hydrogen is released by strong organic / fixed acid, generating a volatile acid that can easily be removed using bicarbonate reserve bicarbonate and sodium. So forming sodium bicarbonate. Carbonic anhydrase in kidneys converts CO2 in tubular fluid into carbonic acid, which dissociates into hydrogen and bicarbonate. Respiratory compensation changes in respiratory rate to help stabilize pH of extracellular fluid. When carbon dioxide increases, the pH decreases, more acidic. When carbon dioxide decreases, the pH increases, more basic. A rise in carbon dioxide stimulates chemoreceptors to increase breathing. An increase in carbon dioxide stimulates chemoreceptors to increase breathing. A lowering of carbon dioxide inhibits chemoreceptors to decrease breathing. Renal compensation, changing in hydrogen and bicarbonate ion secretion and reabsorption at the kidneys. Kidney eliminates carbon dioxide during filtration. This drama is taking its toll on me. The kidney eliminates carbon dioxide during filtration. Ammonia diffuses rapidly into tubular fluids, reacting with hydrogen ions to create ammonium ions. Secretion of hydrogen. So step 1, secretion of hydrogen ions. Step 2, activity of buffers in tubular fluid. Step 3, removal of carbon dioxide. Step 4, reabsorption of sodium bicarbonate. I'm on time. So this is what I got so far on my whiteboard. Things I didn't really understand. I'm going to be studying that before the exam, which is in like a couple of minutes. Okay. I didn't have time to go through my notes, but I'm going to skim through it after this video is done being filmed. Thank you guys for sticking through the video. Let's hope for the best on this exam. I'm not as prepared for this one, so a bit worried. So yeah, guys, don't get involved in drama. It really does affect your studies. Please don't. I mean, you saw it a couple times during this video. I had to stop. I was thinking for a couple minutes. Don't do it. Relax and enjoy your life, please. And focus on where you're trying to go in life, whether it be in sciences or in medical field or whatever profession you're pursuing. Please, the lesson of this video and the lesson even I've been trying to learn is to prioritize your studies. Plan out your days. That's gonna save you a lot of time on your phone. Put it on your calculator, on your calendar if you can. It'll probably help you guys a lot. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you so much. Let's hope I do get on this exam.